Sometimes I think there should be more movies about individuals who are ignored or dismissed by others and then manage to transcend those experiences, astonishing everyone with their accomplishments. By the end of those imagined movies, the heroes would finally get the respect they deserved. It's surprising we don't see this theme in films more often because these situations of underestimating people happen so often in our everyday lives. For example, let's say I'm introduced to someone whose social location is quite different from mine. I better explain what I mean by that. Each of us has a social location, and it's derived from a combination of factors. Among them are gender, race, social class, age, abilities, religion, sexual orientation, geographic or a location, and other things. And then these factors together play a significant role in how each of us views life, and often can explain differences in our attitudes and beliefs. Unfortunately, though, social location often steers us toward dualistic thinking. I'm me, and you're not me. You are other. Us versus them attitudes. And because of that dualistic thinking, I may notice a difference in your social class or your religion or your sexual orientation, and therefore choose to look down on you. Such a telling phrase. On another occasion, I may feel because of my social location and that of a grocery store clerk who is bagging my food, that I have the right to be impatient and imperious, primarily because the clerk makes less money than I do. We can all fall prey to these baser judgmental instincts, and when we do, so often, we discover we were just wrong to assume and to be disdainful. We find that when we take time to get to know the person we've just dismissed, they are surprising, complex, interesting people, deserving of respect. You'd think that having all those hit upside the head comeuppances, and I've sure had plenty of them, you'd think they would cause us to mend our ways, but we usually keep making the same mistakes. There is one movie that comes to mind about an exceptional person who is repeatedly discounted, Forrest Gump. And I hope, who's seen it? I hope good that helps. It's the Oscar-winning Best Picture of 1995, almost 40 years ago, right? Is that right? 40? No, 30. 30. Oh, that's better. Forrest's IQ is low. It's 75. As a boy, he had a curved spine and he walked with metal braces on his legs. And raised by his mother, his father was long gone, he was mercilessly bullied by other children in his school. His social location is dismal. When the movie begins, he's an adult, seated on a bench in a bus stop in Savannah, Georgia. He tells the story of his life to various people who sit next to him while waiting for buses. It turns out that this man with marginal intelligence and a painful childhood is remarkable indeed. In the 1950s, he unknowingly taught Elvis how to move his hips. Later, he earned a spot as a kick returner on an All-American football team. And for his service in Vietnam, he won the Congressional Medal of Honor. Forrest then partnered with his friend, Lieutenant Dan, and the successful Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. And then Lieutenant Dan invested their earnings in a new business called Apple Computer. Forrest thought of it as a fruit company. And you know the rest of that story. But there's more. Forrest managed somehow to be present at just every major event in American history between 1950 and 1980. Do see the movie if you haven't. It's worth it. It's number 11 in IMDb's top films of all time. Forrest Gump, of course, the reason I'm talking about Forrest Gump at all today is because of John's gospel. We have the story of Nathaniel, which is only in this gospel, and it's in the very first chapter. Jesus has already recruited some disciples, including Andrew, Peter, and Philip. And in turn, Philip approaches Nathanael and tells him he has found the Holy One promised by Moses and the prophets. Philip then informs Nathanael that Jesus is from Nazareth. And Nathanael responds by disdaining Jesus' social location. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? He says. I did a bit of research on Nazareth and found that there's no evidence that there was some proverbial nastiness about Jesus' hometown in the first century. Now, Nathanael had his own private prejudices, and he gave vent to this one, just as we are prone to do. Philip responds to him in the same way Jesus did when he invited Andrew to follow. Come and see, he says. And in spite of Nathanael's feelings about Nazareth, he decides to go to Jesus, who says something startling to him. Here is truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit. That is high praise from Jesus. Which of us wouldn't want him to say that about us? Jesus is recognizing that Nathanael isn't just honest, frank, and straightforward. He is his own true self. There is no artifice in him. Of course, this all takes Nathanael aback. Where did you come to know me? He says. And Jesus gobsmacks him again. I saw you under the fig tree before Philip called you. Nathanael's reaction to that is immediate, a stunning confession of faith in response to Jesus' superhuman knowledge. Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. The man without deceit fearlessly speaks the truth. In all four Gospels, we see so many incidents in which the disciples just don't seem to understand who Jesus is and what he offers. But here, early in John's Gospel, is Nathanael, somehow intuitively apprehending this Gospel's opening verse. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, does Nathanael thoroughly understand what he's saying? No. Do we thoroughly understand what we are saying when we name Jesus the Son of God? No. Nathanael is a disciple of Jesus, but he is not one of the 12 apostles. In earlier centuries, biblical commentators argued that Nathanael was just another name for the apostle Bartholomew. So they argued he actually was an apostle, just named differently. But modern day scholars point out that that claim was just an attempt to cover up the somewhat embarrassing truth that Nathanael, the most insightful disciple, so grounded in faith, did not make it into the final 12. Nathanael did continue to follow Jesus, however. He appears again at the very end of John's gospel in that marvelous scene on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, a scene with the resurrected Christ. There, Nathanael and 5 of the official apostles catch some fish, and the risen Jesus cooks them breakfast. Nathanael was there from the beginning to the end. He had wondered if anything good could come out of Nazareth, but he wisely decided not to walk away from an opportunity to meet Jesus. He decided to come and see. He followed Philip, and that man from Nazareth he had judged in a glib, offhanded way stunned him. Jesus told Nathanael that if he thought his seeing him under the fig tree was impressive, he better get ready for seeing him with angels ascending and descending around him. Get ready for the heavens to be blown open. Nathanael did not walk away from his opportunity to meet Jesus. He was feeling a bit cheeky about Nazareth, but he rethought it. Let's do what Nathanael did when we find ourselves judging someone's social location, looking down on them, considering them a waste of our precious time. Let's rethink what we're doing. Let's engage that person. Let's remember what we all promised just last week, to seek and serve Christ in all persons, loving our neighbors as ourselves. Right now, our time is out of joint, and we all have been born to set it right. It is up to each of us as individuals to begin the work of healing this nation, by starting with ourselves, to engage lovingly with those in social locations that are not our own. Yes, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me and you. And always remember what Forrest Gump's mama used to say as a caution: stupid is as stupid does. Amen.